Well, you know what they say, everything is bigger in Texas, including the stakes in tonight's Republican debate in Houston. We're bringing you coverage of that live.
And we're going live to Washington, D.C. to hear from correspondent Mark Salinger about election buzz in the Capitol. This is See It Live.
Well, the last Republican debate before Super Tuesday is in full swing. As you can see behind me, Eitan, good evening. I'm Cole Sullivan.
And I'm Eitan Wallace. Annenberg media reporter Kelly Rinke is live at the USC Unruh Institute's Republican Debate Viewing Party. Kelly.
I'm here in front of the Montgomery Ross Fisher building, which is behind Levy Library, and inside is where that viewing party is being held. It's being put on by the Unruh Institute. Students are able to watch the debate, and in between commercials, political experts start up a conversation to talk about what they think about the debate so far. And so far in the debate, Cruz and Rubio have started to fire back at Trump, even suggesting that he has hired people illegally in his company. And that was the biggest question going into tonight. What are Cruz and Rubio going to do to stop Trump's momentum? Here's what a political expert had to say about his expectations for the debate.
Cruz is feistier. I mean, that's his personality, so I think it's more his natural space. And Rubio, there's just a question of what he says. Is it actually what he's going to stand by? And I think that's probably what Cruz is really going to stick into Rubio with. Ben Carson will be likably insane, and Kasich is probably the guy who should be president, but won't obviously be. And the question is, do they drop out? Do they say? Trump's going to hit Cruz for being a liar. The two of them are going to hit Trump for just about anything. Probably the stickiest thing is going to be this issue of tax returns, but there's no real meat there. There's no there. Entertainment tonight.
And we'll have more info on the GOP debate later on the show. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Kelly. Well, the GOP debate in Houston is generating a lot of reaction on social media, as you might imagine. Here are a few tweets that stand out so far. At David Bellamy III tweeted, CNN Republican debate, Rubio is standing and moving like he's in the Hall of Presidents already. At Andy Fleming said, George H.W. Bush showed up at the first Republican debate after Jeb dropped out. Classic passive-aggressive dad move. And at Matt Walsh tweeted, Rubio not letting Trump weasel out of the issue. It seems like Rubio has learned a thing or two. He likes it.
And Cole, as you might expect, there's also a great deal of excitement at the University of Houston, the site of tonight's debate. But according to UH student leaders, very few students are actually allowed to attend the event.
There's only 5 students who have been allowed from the university to go to this debate personally, so they're really not engaging the students, they're not engaging the atmosphere around them. So I think that says kind of a lot about the culture here. We are not protesting this event. We're trying to do as much get out the vote effort as possible because Texas is not a red state, it's a non-voting state. And so instead of protesting at these events, we're handing out voter cards, registering voters, making people know that their voice counts in this election.
Tonight, the 5 remaining presidential hopefuls are expected to discuss a range of issues from gun control to immigration. Each candidate hopes to win over voters in the final debate before Super Tuesday next week. Washington, D.C. correspondent Mark Salinger is standing by live to give us an inside look into how this presidential race is affecting the nation's capital. Mark.
Yeah, it's here in Washington. Pretty much everybody thinks that it's become a 3-horse race between Donald Trump leading the pack, Marco Rubio, and Ted Cruz. Going into this debate, Rubio and Cruz are pretty much fighting to keep up with Trump, while John Kasich and Ben Carson are kind of down off to the side. We at the debate tonight, and they'll continue on for Tuesday. Not many people here give them any fighting chance of winning the nomination. Now, the reason why that Donald Trump has done well and is continuing to do well, many people here in Washington believe that that's because Donald Trump hasn't really been attacked. He hasn't really taken that many punches from the leaders Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz. The only people who have really attacked him, people like Jeb Bush, who's no longer a candidate because he had to drop out.
Surrounding the Obama Supreme Court nomination changed this election.
Yeah, here in Washington, the really untimely death of Justice Antonin Scalia has led to pretty much a political chess match. Just a couple days ago, President Obama in the White House leaked the name of Governor of Nevada, Brian Sandoval. He's a moderate conservative that really not a lot of people would think he would nominate to the Supreme Court, but the White House released his name as a leak. Basically, testing the waters, see if the Republicans would even play ball of any nomination. But here in Washington, the president has a couple choices. He can either nominate a liberal, who is very unlikely that the Republican-controlled Senate will approve that nominee, or he can nominate more of a moderate, which has a higher chance of getting at least voted on in the Senate. But really, at this point, it's just speculation.
Interesting, Mark. And of course, Super Tuesday is coming up next week. What impact is this day going to have on the race?
Yeah, Super Tuesday, March 1st, coming up this Tuesday, is a huge day. The biggest prize of that is Texas, 155 delegates at stake there. And on top of the delegates at stake, it's also big for Ted Cruz. That's his home state. He's a senator from there. And if he loses Texas, that could spell a lot of trouble for the Ted Cruz campaign. Of course, that would be good for Marco Rubio, who wants the field to begin to narrow down so that he can take on frontrunner Donald Trump one-on-one, where he thinks that he has the best chance of winning.
Mark Salinger live for us in Washington, D.C. Always nice to see you, Mark, and we look forward to seeing you next week once again on our live political coverage for Super Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mark.
Well, Donald Trump heads into Super Tuesday, taking the lead after taking consecutive wins in New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada.
And Cole, that means he's on his way toward winning the Republican nomination. Annenberg digital producer Savannah Ajar shows us what he still needs to do to become the GOP nominee.
With Super Tuesday coming up, the presidential race is getting serious. Donald Trump won the Nevada Republican caucus, showing a lot of momentum for his campaign. The billionaire now has 3 wins in a row after his victories in New Hampshire and South Carolina, which reinforced his status as the frontrunner for the GOP presidential nomination. 1,237 delegates are needed for nomination, and there are 2,472 available. Here's where the Republican candidates stand so far. John Kasich sits at the bottom with just 4 delegates. Ben Carson stands ahead of him with 6. Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio are tied for second place with 17 delegates each, and Trump sets himself apart with 81. There are 595 delegates up for grabs this coming Super Tuesday. So what is Super Tuesday? Voting takes place in 12 states and 1 U.S. territory, making it the biggest single day for presidential candidates to receive delegates. Why should you care? In most presidential election years, Super Tuesday is seen as a turning point and typically serves as the key indicator of who the nominees will be from each party.
Thank you, Savannah, for that. A very interesting analysis and explanation of Super Tuesday. And speaking of Super Tuesday, primaries will be held for both Democrats and Republicans in many southern states. Some of the biggest delegate prizes will be in Texas, Virginia, and your great state, your home state, Cole, of Georgia.
That's exactly right, Eitan. There'll also be caucuses in Alaska, Colorado, and American Samoa, so we can make sure the voters in American Samoa can have their voices heard as well. The results from Super Tuesday will have a major impact on the race for the White House. The Republicans and Democratic candidates that come out on top will be in a great position, as Savannah just said, to receive their party's presidential nomination.
And while the Republican candidates are debating in Texas tonight, Democrats Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders are hitting the campaign trail across the country. Clinton had 4 events scheduled today in South Carolina ahead of Saturday's primary. They included a Breaking Down Barriers event with Senator Cory Booker and a town hall meeting tonight. Sanders spent this morning at a rally in Ohio before heading to a community forum in Flint, Michigan. Tonight, Sanders is holding a rally in Chicago. And both candidates don't appear to be slowing down anytime soon. Cole.
Not at all. Clinton will be in Georgia, the great state of Georgia, tomorrow. Sanders will be traveling to South Carolina as they continue to fight towards Super Tuesday to win as many delegates as they can. Well, meanwhile, back here on campus, Good Morning America co-host Robin Roberts was here to talk to Annenberg students about everything from the Oscars to her career in sports. With her starting out in her career in sports, she also shared her thoughts on the presidential candidates.
I went to a Bernie Sanders rally. Ooh, I almost drank the Kool-Aid. I was like, whoa, yeah, I felt the burn. I was feeling the burn. The next morning, we talked to the Trump sons. Why can't a candidate just state their position without ripping apart who they're running against? I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear what you're going to do. I don't want to hear why you don't like the guy or woman next to you.
Amen. Roberts feels the candidates should stick to explaining what they would do for voters instead of attacking their opponents.
Interesting. And let's go back now to Annenberg media reporter Kelly Rinke outside the Montgomery Ross Fisher building, where people are watching the GOP debate. Kelly.
The debate started off talking about immigration, and so far it's really been a battle between those top three candidates. So that question about what are Cruz and Rubio going to do to stop Trump's momentum if they are going to attack him has really been answered within the first 30 minutes or so. But a political expert who I spoke with said that regardless of what happens at the debate tonight, it really won't affect the results coming up on Super Tuesday. Back to you guys.
Appreciate it. And we'll have Kelly and Mark and all of our reporters available on Tuesday throughout the night tonight for the debate, and then again on Tuesday for Super Tuesday coverage.
Looking forward to that. That's Tuesday, March 1st. Looking
Absolutely. Oh, thanks for watching See It Live tonight. From everyone at Annenberg Media, I'm Cole Sullivan.
And I'm Eitan Wallace. You can always watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com. Good night.
See you next time.